Continuing on the topic of healing, in this case, as we were talking about the disciples being able to heal just as Jesus did, according to the scriptures, today we know of this as quote unquote faith healing. This kind of healing does not require any sort of medical knowledge or understanding of how the human body works. It mainly seems to be some sort of mental discipline, some sort of understanding of a higher force that perhaps the disciples were attuned to or were able to focus just as Jesus did. This is basically magic. It's just just waving your hands in front of someone and suddenly they are healed. That's what the scriptures kind of hint at. Perhaps that's not the way it was, but in any case, we have to wonder, what is this faith healing all about? There have been multiple cases recorded in medical history from doctors who have published papers on this, and just crazy stories that I could point at, but a quick Google search will show you some of these cases where people who had terminal illnesses or incurable diseases or were in a very bad condition suddenly went through what they called the quote-unquote miraculous healing, a miracle out of nowhere. And now, there is one doctor that made some research about this and realized that many of the patients who went through this kind of miraculous healing were actually practicing some sort of Christianity and were in some sort of a circle of prayers where the influence of other people praying and focusing on them and on their wellness seems to have actually helped them get better, rather than an indication that perhaps the Christian narrative is correct given some of this evidence. Perhaps there is another force at hand, because we do know of other healing rituals that have worked and have nothing to do with Christianity. Some of those have to do with the Native American healing rituals, and there are many other things that can be associated with healing. The Buddhist monks and the Buddhist texts do tell us of some of the rituals that they went through. In the case of Buddhists, it was very important for people to understand the cause of what brought the illness, because they believe every single thought creates a karmic seed, and every single karmic seed has a consequence. In the case of the Native American rituals, we can see that there was a lot of use of ritual elements. They used herbs and smoke, chanting, which in the case of chanting, this might have been a huge part, because chanting is very similar to prayer, at least in the way that Jesus taught and perceived. It was about repeating a set of words that means something to the person that is repeating them and going into some sort of a state of mind, into a certain vibration. We can see this through any sort of mantra. So in the case of Native Americans, this was their chanting. Now, all of these seem to be ritualistic elements, just as in the case of Christianity, they would attribute these healing powers to either the Holy Spirit or the authority of God or something like that. In the case of the Native Americans, they would attribute this to nature or to their own gods. But what is truly behind all of this? Besides these elements in Native American culture, one of the most important things was for the subject of the ritual to be fully involved in the ritual and to be fully present in the event that was going to happen, along with the community around them. Everybody had to be focused and present during this ritual. Now, in the case of these miraculous healings where people had circles of prayer around them, or directed by their church priests, there's that sense of community, that notion of multiple consciousness focusing on the same goal to promote wellness. Even with these bits of information, we can arrive to certain conclusions. One of these is that there is some sort of mental discipline needed in order to perform these rituals. There is the use of tools that aid in this, whether it is holding a rosary and praying, or whether it is smoke and herbs and incense and chanting in the case of Native Americans. In both cases, these are tools that promote that mental discipline. Now, all of this can seem very similar to those New Age ideas of positive thinking and affirmations that will create the life you've always dreamed of. But in my research, I didn't want to go into that path because I find it very reductive and very unbased. It does not explain why everything happens and why we have to think positive, and it just seems like it's the same as Christian dogmatism but in a different focus. So one of the purposes for me at the end of this series on healing is to explain exactly why this is important and what theories do we have from scientists who are starting to speak about theories about the world being connected in some sort of way, about reality being some sort of hologram where all the information is encoded in a different place. And the thing that I found interesting is that throughout the research on different religions, I found these patterns in different ways. For example, Jesus would speak about this center of the code as the spirit or the father. And in Hindu religions, they speak about Maya and the wheel of illusion. There are many, many things and many references to things that science is slowly uncovering. If you're on the path of finding the truth about reality and our purpose as humans on Earth, the information that I have to share concerns you. After a lifetime of research in philosophies ranging from Buddhism to the occult, I've encountered themes and patterns along some baffling information that is beginning to be seriously studied by science. Our Rational Divine Outline, The Ghost of Jesus, is the first iteration of this project, where I analyze the message of Jesus without dogmatism, fanaticism, or religious bias. You can find my work available on Amazon on the link below. If you find this work valuable, consider subscribing, sharing, and following me on social media, as it'll help others in the same path to find this information. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.